Alright, hello and welcome to my YouTube channel, or at least welcome to this video. It's going to be a little bit different because I'm talking about how I learned to speak Italian. Yes, parlo italiano. Un pochino, ma è abbastanza per avere conversazione semplice. I would say I have the level of maybe an 8-year-old. I know enough to get by. I've spent time in Italian cities alone, or at least as the only English speaker in my group. I can have a simple conversation about who are you, where are you from, what do you do, ask for directions, give directions, talk about very simple things, just simple stuff like that. If you ask my English speaking friends or my Italian friends, I believe they will both vouch that I speak Italian, or at least enough to say I speak Italian. I do feel like I had a little bit of an advantage when learning Italian. First of all, I lived in the Philippines and spoke Visayan when I was younger. The only reason I mention this is because I was able to adopt the accent very well. Like, I actually completely forgot my American accent, and even when I spoke English, I spoke with a Filipino accent. And I think this is just because I was very young and very impressionable, and it was more important to sound like people around me. So I don't know, I just feel like I modified my tongue. And even now that I speak Italian, I don't have a very strong accent, or at least I've been told, and I credit my childhood language learning experience. Second, in high school, I chose to learn Latin as my foreign language. Nobody speaks Latin anymore, but out of all three Romance languages, French, Spanish, and Italian, Italian is the most similar to Latin. When I was learning Italian, a lot of high school Latin came back to me and helped me. And third, before I was learning Italian, I was actually learning Japanese for about 6 months. The reason this helped me was because when I decided to learn Italian instead, I already had language learning habits and like a schedule. I didn't have to really change a lot with my schedule when I decided to take on Italian. Alright, so I'm going to talk about the tools I use to learn Italian, which is what this video is about anyway. So I have two main apps for when I learned Italian. I use Memrise and Duolingo. These apps are very good for vocabulary, listening, and reading. They have different formats, but they kind of gamify the language learning experience, which is nice, and it's fun because you get points and you keep your streak. It's a great tool to, just when you're on the go. I would spend my time on the apps when I was waiting at a bus stop or something, so it's very easy to just squeeze in my vocab or my listening exercise for the day. So I will say Memrise is doing some really cool stuff. They now have an audio and visual dictionary. It's a really nice function, and I just saw their beta testing actually listening to your voice. So it's a lot more interactive than it used to be. And then Duolingo is nice because it also touches on sentence structure. There is not a lot of explanation in Duolingo. You kind of just learn it via context. So I don't think Duolingo is enough, and it definitely needs to be supplemented with other things, but Duolingo is, I think, the most popular language learning app anyway. So I mean, you'll get a lot of support there, and it's a good app. Both of them. I like both apps. I don't have a favorite. So there's this podcast called Coffebreak Italian, and it is so wonderful. They also have a Spanish and a French version, so if you're learning those languages, assuming the format is the same as Italian, I definitely recommend those. It's a podcast, so it's very easy to listen to in the car or whenever you're doing something else. The format is there is a teacher, a native speaker, and then a learner. It's great to have the learner because you're learning Italian along with the learner. They ask the learner a question, there's going to be a pause for you to guess the answer, and also, the learner is going to make common mistakes, so you also learn from their mistakes, which is really nice. You can compare yourself to another learner. It's like having a classmate. What's nice with the podcast is that it just makes sense, the progression they made. They're not going to start with, okay, day one, we're going to learn conjugations. It has a sensible progression. We're going to learn greetings first, and then we're going to learn follow-up questions like, how are you, and what do you do for a living, where are you from, and then how to answer those questions as well. Because when you learn a language, I'm not going to try and learn the vocabulary for wall and curtain. It's not very relevant. It's definitely more relevant to learn something like where is the bathroom, or I'm allergic to this food if you're traveling and you're going to a restaurant. So it just teaches you the most relevant stuff first. And then also the grammar, but that's kind of post facto. It's more important that you get the main stuff, and that's why I like this podcast. It just makes total sense the way that they teach the vocab, the sentences, the grammar, pronunciation, things like that. The next resource I used was called edX, and it is an open source course. It's free to take. You do sign up for it, and there are assignments. There is a grade for like the quizzes and everything, and at the end of the course you can basically pay money and get a certificate. Some institutions may accept it for college credit or AP credit, depending. I'm not sure. I wasn't interested in getting any credit for it. I'm just trying to learn, so I'm not sure about that, but definitely check it out if you're trying to learn anything else and maybe get college credit for something. So edX, this is a more academic approach to Italian, which was a good supplement for my just getting by. It talks about grammar, when to use formal and informal, and like conjugating, like past tense stuff, where it was very useful. I wasn't trying to write an essay in Italian or anything, but I did want to, upgrade my conversations, and I wanted to talk about what I did today or what I'm going to do tomorrow, rather than just like, I eat food kind of conversations. It was just a nice thing to have. It's not necessary, but if you're trying to upgrade your Italian or whatever, definitely move on to something like grammar and writing, techie stuff. And finally, the best way I learned Italian was practicing with native speakers. I was very lucky that I had Italian friends who wouldn't judge me for my accent or for my mistakes, and they were just very helpful to me. They would teach me words along the way. It's very important to feel comfortable when you're working with someone, because you have to be comfortable with making mistakes. That is how you get better. If you're afraid of making mistakes, then you're not going to try as often or as hard. You're not going to take risks, and you're not going to get better. Like, you kind of have to put yourself on a limb. If you still have a problem with that, I will say, I used to think that my Italian was better when I got drunk, but it's actually, I just made more mistakes, so I got better quicker. So if you need to relax a little bit, maybe alcohol could help. I'm not telling you to drink, but I'm telling you to relax by whatever means you need to relax. If you don't have anybody that speaks Italian around you, you could pay to use italki and get a tutor, or perhaps find an exchange partner. A lot of Italians want to learn English, so if you do enough searching, I'm sure you can find somebody who will teach you Italian in exchange for English. Alright, thank you so much for watching this video. I hope my experience with learning Italian might direct you a little bit as you continue your language learning journey, whether that's Italian or not. A lot of these resources will have, courses for other languages as well. Although I have a lot more Italian to learn, especially if I want to spend a lot more time there, I am currently at a stopping point with my Italian learning journey. I definitely know enough that if I were to go right now, I would feel very comfortable just making my way around. I don't have any plans to go to Italy anytime soon. I'm definitely going back, but for the next year at least, I won't be going back. So I'm just at a stopping point with Italian, and I'm ready to move on to another language because I actually enjoy this language learning process. So that's just why I felt like now was the time to talk about this. Thank you so much for watching. Grazie per la visione. I might link a video to me speaking Italian below this video somewhere, so you can decide for yourself whether I speak Italian actually. I know this was a different video than normal, but as always, I want to wish you a happier, healthier, and more magical day, because learning a language is kind of magical. Until next time, grazie e ciao ciao. I say too much. Gosh, I just feel sorry for myself about to edit these videos because I have so many ums to clean and cut.